Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. As a backup to Josh's crazy week, I am co-host. So welcome to everyone who is new. I've been hanging out in this space for several years now. It almost feels like start of COVID was when Josh and I first connected. And I've just really enjoyed, I have the entrepreneurial mindset and then the regen mindset. And so this really is a good space. So I own and run Farming Secrets and the Soil Learning Center. So my biggest drives and passions are about education and especially anything that heals and regenerates the human soul, the spirit, the environment, everything, the mindset especially. So that's where I'm coming from. I've recently been getting quite excited about the opportunities that exist around decentralization and blockchain. Don't necessarily need to go down NFTs and whatnot, but Web 3.0 just has me super excited. For me, it feels like 1998 again. I was too young to ride the wave of the .com boom, but I definitely feel like this is our new generation opportunity to really form a new version of decentralized platforms and bring the power back to the people, which is for so longly, been in the control of the wrong hands. And so I'm really excited about this new world or utopia that we can, as the people, create collectively working together. And so that's what's getting me excited. The more videos I watch about, decentralized applications and the fact that they can be run autonomously and owned by the people and the community, I just see so much overlap in what I've learned from the regenerative space and how Mother Nature works and how we as humans on this planet can really use our, skills that we're born with into healing and reversing so many of the broken, corrupt, especially here in Melbourne. We've had like the harshest lockdowns. Our governments are trying to pass rules that give them state powers all the time. Because there's an outbreak of something else in Indonesia, we might close down here in Australia and gone completely police state. So lots of protests, lots of groups being formed, and really, light at the end of the tunnel of what kind of seems really dark spaces lately. So I'm very excited about that, and it's not business related, but I'm just meeting more and more people who are getting it and understanding like what's outside doesn't feel right. And so I like coming into these spaces and bridging that gap and just seeing how everyone is operating from all around the world. So we normally do a popcorn thing in this space. So once you've finished, you popcorn to the next person. Jonathan's an eager beaver. So Jono, off to you, mate. He's joining us from a boat. So he's got a great story as well.
Great to see you, Ray. Thank you so much. You were talking about Web3, so I'm like, I got to jump in.
I can't hear you, mate.
Can't hear me?
I can't hear you. I'm not sure if your mic's out.
How about this? Does this work?
Yeah, I can hear him. No problem.
I can hear him.
You can't hear me?
Great. Oh, maybe it's just me.
I hear you, Jonathan.
Yeah. Okay. I can see the microphones bouncing.
So Ray can't hear? Okay. So hey, everybody. John Connors. Really formulated a Web3 vision with Joshua, Ray's help, and the crew here, and Claire, who's a regular here, was part of it, called RegenFT. We created 76 NFTs for regenerative causes. We didn't sell any, but we learned a ton. I'm actually really stoked. I think as of yesterday, I made a declaration that I'm only going to make my money in decentralized organizations from this point forward. And I said no to RegenFT 2.0, which there was some sort of like centralized jockeying, and no disrespect to any players in that game. That's just not the game I'm playing anymore. I'm playing the game of aligning incentives and solving tragedies of the commons together. So right now I'm teaming up with a team at Contra Costa Resource Conservation District in the Bay Area to create a regional restore-a-thon around decentralized autonomous organizations for ecology. And so it's called Hack the Bay and Delta 2.0, ecological DAOs. And we're going to be doing 3 DAOs. One DAO for water quality management. So imagine drones picking up water samples with a geotag on it, or recreational boaters scooping up water, sending it to a lab and popping it on a map for everyone to see. That's one. Mapping illegal dumping. Since COVID, dumping has gone up immensely. I don't know the stats yet, but there's not as many people out there looking. So therefore, in the edge spaces, more trash is accumulating. And we're imagining also drones, and self-reporting to come together and have a DAO for at least the mapping process of illegal dumping, so we can report it to the authorities and also have an eye on whether they've actually executed in removing it. And then thirdly would be an ecological DAO to measure soil carbon. You know what I mean? Soil carbon sequestration is the jam. And we need, with more ecological reporting statistics, people will get the story so much more easily than us regens just having a permaculture conversation that only us get, you know what I mean? So trying to take Web 3.0 best practices, create these 3 little action-packed teams, and I don't know if you know, $15.3 billion is currently assets under management for all DAOs. And that went up from 8 billion just 6 months ago. So there's a crap ton of money for this. I'm cleaning up my degenerate past with the IRS and my student loans. So I'm setting up the space to be an attractor and a place to hold, hopefully, a decent chunk of change as we implement, I think, a revolutionary event. So popcorn over to Luke.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. I'm glad to be with you again. I'm circling back around. It's just, life has just been way too overwhelming to be present everywhere all the time. But that's a good indication of where we're at right now. Coming apart at the seams slightly, because this attempt to bridge the worlds has been very overwhelming lately. Not just the new contacts, influx, and awareness from regeneration pollination activities and the global regeneration collab and such, the galaxy in there. But this weekend we have the complexity weekend, and we have the Alex, totally, it's off the hook. We've got the Pioneers conference. That's like super amazing, because the mycelial networks, it all comes back to that, Suzanne Simard's there, and there's just so many amazing people gathered together to be part of the solution right now, like we're all saying here, And then of course there's all of our regular events. And what's this Global Regeneration Summit? I don't even have the attention for that. You know what I mean? It's like so much right now. The COP, Open COP is really fascinating. If anybody can check it out. I do have a presentation planned for midnight UTC, midnight Pacific, 8 a.m. UTC, involved with that coming up. So thank you. Glad to be back here. Just a quick update. I do want to work on the MOCR for what we're all doing in the GRC and such, just presented in the near future. So I'm working towards. Complexity Weekend is going to help big time. Love you all. How about Russell?
Hello, everybody. So, very exciting room today. Lots of energy. I love it. Sounds like everybody's having a great time. So I'm here in Colombia, South America. It's dark, so I've got no light right now. So I've just got my photo up there, and it's kind of taking off here. I don't know what everybody's feeling, but this week suddenly I'm getting inboxes full of people wanting to come up to the farm to do, permaculture volunteering and courses and such like that, more than it's been for the last a year and a bit. I mean, we're just coming out of rainy season, so I suppose it's coming into high tourist season. But the fact that there is tourism of some kind is probably the difference. What I'm finding, but also just like people suddenly just saying, "I want to do a permaculture course." That hasn't happened for quite some time. So yeah, quite excited to be active again, and dealing with real people, not just internet stuff, which is cool and everything. As much as we need to be able to communicate long distance via the internet, it's also nice to shake someone's hand and give them a hug and all the rest of it, right? So yeah, excited to get back on that particular train, and at the same time you're looking forward to what new year will bring with our company Sustainable Network in the UK, and building something there as well. So let me see who we can find in this room. Participants, We've done Luke, Natalie. I'll pass it to Natalie.
Natalie there? Oh, there she goes. I saw a blip on the mic, but I can't hear you. Anybody else hear Natalie?
Yeah, I can't hear either.
There we go. Oh,
Little
she
bit.
might have low bandwidth. So, I heard something there.
Yep.
Okay.
Getting
Yeah,
better.
it's just
Yeah,
mic on
there we
this
go. That's
cheap
much better.
headset, I think. Yeah, so I'm Natalie. I'm based in Bali and Indonesia. I started a company here called Bamboo Creative Bali, and we're teaching skills around bamboo building, but more aimed at a like local level, because basically 70% of the world population that would benefit from using bamboo instead of concrete and all the other crap don't really have accessibility to it in terms of like it being sustainable in terms of the cost of treatment and all that stuff. So I'm just working with another organization, and yeah, it's the whole ecosystem thing here of all these different groups and people in the regenerative movement is really starting to take off in Bali. Like before, it just seemed like all separate things and stuff going on, and yeah, people are actually starting to communicate now, and it's pretty exciting, which is great. So yeah, and I'm working with another organization called Asam Karaway, which basically in Indonesian just means like the natural way of life, and to work on a bamboo treatment program for traditional methods for bamboo treatment. So yeah, hoping that that can sort of become something along the lines of, apart from actually affordable treatment method, but something that could become like a, I don't know, not really ecological tourism, but it's all sort of like knitted in, with internships and like ecological tourism, and going to like giving the people the experience of going and helping build a bamboo house in a community somewhere, learning traditional skills and crafting and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, this sort of basically what I'm doing. And yeah, just got onto these meetings. I haven't been on one for a while. I'm not sure if I've been on this group before. They just pop up, and then when I can get into them, I'm click on it, which sometimes late at night. I think the last one I was on, I had cat fighting going on outside my window. I don't know if you guys are on that one. But yeah, so yeah, I'm really excited to meet everyone and see what everyone's doing. I was just sort of having a moment of like been editing my website all morning and going like, oh, I need friends, and then okay, time to jump on. So yeah.
It's wonderful to have you, Natalie.
So
I think I do remember
I'm
the
taking
cats
my
though.
glasses off. I don't know who to popcorn to. Can someone, who's that? Alex Barnes, are
Alex,
you ready?
Yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
first time here, Regenpreneurs. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Regenpreneur. I have a hard time saying words properly, I guess. Yeah, so I'm in Toronto. I'm an angel investor. I started up Effective Altruism Entrepreneurs 4 days ago, and I have over 150 members, including people from Total Portfolio Project and lots of other amazing things. So if you have something you want to pitch to Effective Altruists, let me know. And yesterday I was at Angel Investors Ontario and did lots of awesome networking. So if you have anything to pitch within Ontario, Canada, let me know. And I'll help you make connections elsewhere in any sort of space like Complexity Weekend, Radical Exchange, Progress Studies, Systems Innovation. I don't know, probably forgetting some. Anyway, I just go out and connect to a ton of different people about lots of different things. The Regen Ag, I was talking to Mitra and Yangbo about that a while ago, and we would love to make it into something you can get debt financing for. We'd love to make it the sort of thing that you can, you buy a farm and you go to the bank and the bank will actually give you a loan, and they can just package it up and sell it to investors like pension funds who want, cash flows. That's what they want. They want stable assets. They want, they don't want to be buying NFTs. Your unionized employees can't have NFTs in their pension accounts. Like, that doesn't work, right? So we need to build this up. We need to make the finance system work to support the ecosystem, the natural environment, and everything. And it's just a matter of like putting it in the right context and framework and stuff. And it's difficult and challenging. But you guys are doing all the hard work on the ground, like dealing with soils and stuff like that. That's way harder than the actual part of just putting things in spreadsheets for investors to understand. It's actually like a bit easier than the, trying to make stuff grow. I've tried growing crops. It's hard. It's like really, really hard. I sucked at it. I was bad at it, but I'm pretty good at like connecting with people. So yeah, just reach out.
It's all relative, brother. It's all hard in some ways and easy in others.
Yeah. Complexity Weekend's gonna be amazing, Luke. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Alex. It's good to have you here. So it is Regenpreneurs, by the way. Regenpreneurs think tank. We've gone through several different names, but we're sticking with this one, and at least for now. But yeah, let's dive into events. Alex mentioned he's got something going on. If you could post that up, it looks like you have. Awesome. And anybody else? Let's share events. I'm just going to think ahead a little bit here and just get a raise of hands. Just the people here. I know not everybody's doing the American Thanksgiving, and I want to leave it open for those that want to come here. But let's just get a raise of hands. I won't be able to make it on Thursday, the 25th, for our Thursday meeting. Who would like to have a meeting here? Ray's going to be able to host that on the 25th. But if we don't have people that want to come, we'll just say we'll skip it that week. Who wants to come on the 25th? Anybody feel like coming on the 25th, which is Thanksgiving?
So it's not next week, it's the week
Russell?
after. So it's 2 sessions away.
Yeah, 2 sessions. So Russell.
I'd like the possibility of it.
Okay.
Yep. Alex said it's not my Thanksgiving. Yep. Okay, let's keep it in
Thanksgiving's
the
in
calendar.
October. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
And I like the Canadian Thanksgiving more than I like the US Thanksgiving. And I'm trying to like see if we can like make that more of a thing. Because I know there's a little bit more of an indigenous root than the US kind of has made our Thanksgiving into. So I'm trying to push that type of feeling in, but I'm here in Panama. We don't really celebrate, but there's a lot of expats, right? So we're going to be going to Thanksgiving with a fellow expat. So yeah, I think it's good. Ray, what do you think? You able to host 25th?
Yep. Sounds good.
Cool.
My 26.
Yeah, you're 26. And then any other events? Let's shout them out.
I already entered some of the information that was requested here, but yeah, there's another event that I'm presenting at 6:30 PST today, and I can share information about that. But honestly, I don't think that would appeal to people quite as much as the one that's coming up on November 17th, because the one that I'm presenting at 6:30 today is for our region of the Northwest United States and the bottom tip of Canada and BC, our regional alliance. If some of you remember the subject of bioregional alliances interconnecting to realize the human equivalent mycelial network, each region needs to be locally focused as well with supports. So that's what today is for. I mean, we invite emissaries from other regions to be present for these if they wish to learn and do similar, but the overall, global, the Planetary Council will be on November 17th, and that is called Altered States of Empowerment. It is in the Slack channel in Bioregional Acceleration, for those of you that are in the GRC Slack channel. And I'll put the information in the chat as well for Altered States of Empowerment.
Luke
think
did mention
alternatives.
bi-
Oh,
Luke
sorry.
did mention Pioneers as well. You
Yep.
mentioned Pioneers as well. So that's in
in the chat.
And then I forgot to mention Regeneration Pollination is tomorrow as well.
It's
I
tomorrow
won't
at
be
10.
there, but usually tomorrow at 10 Pacific.
PST. Yep.
And Alex, I think you'd really enjoy that one. We get like 50 or so.
Oh
we're
yeah,
starting
that's
to
where I
get
met
like
Mitra and
like 50
Yangbo and a ton of other people, Luke and
Exactly.
everybody.
Oh,
It's-
yes.
yeah, I keep mentioning it
Okay.
to everybody.
Okay.
Like it's such a
Awesome.
good
So,
event.
yeah,
Regen pollination.
I do remember seeing you there. Okay. So good to have you. And yeah, come tomorrow. It is on, I'll just post Regeneration Pollination's link for everybody. Regenerationpollination.earth is the website. Boom. There we go.
I think I'm going to host another one of those in the near future.
Yeah, it's so much fun to host and co-host and deal with tech and just be on the committee for making those happen all over the world. It's been really cool to see Oceania start to grow theirs and to see the 2 time zones that are supported by those in the States and those in the Americas. And I know Russell's been a host. There's been a lot of hosts that have come on here. Okay, so on that note, anybody else? If not, we'll get into challenges. And Ray, do you want to lead us with challenges?
Yep, sure. I don't have any challenges personally this week, but what we like to do here in the think tank and / mastermind is basically help each other, work through problems. So it's a space to basically just lift up something that's kind of on your mind, something you're stuck with, something you need some collective comfort with. I think sometimes that is more the situation that we tend to find in this space is the conversation goes wherever it needs to go. And so there's nothing that's off the cards. But if anyone has any things that they'd like to work through, I've got John, who's got his hand up. Yep, let's go. And then maybe, share your problem. We will help come up with some solutions. And then if there's time, we go through some other ones. So just be mindful. We've got about an hour left in the room.
Yeah, so I don't want to take up too much of the time, but thank you for this. At 4:12, I put up there a link to a Google Doc, and I figured it would be easier actually. If anybody could just look at the Google Doc that I have, I can talk a little bit about it. I'm a blockchain guy. I just got off launching a blockchain security company, and we went from 0 to 11,000 users in 6 weeks on our Discord. And so I'm really immersed in that space. So sometimes blockchain people have their own lingo. Crypto, it's different crypto circles have their own lingo, and regenerates have their own lingo. So what I'm looking for is like suggestions, edit suggestions in suggested format for changing the language to make it more approachable for an ecological audience. I'm going to present this to the CCRCD team by the end of day today as just a page and a half per page and a quarter proposal. And we just love any edit feedback, or does this make sense at all, or whatever. I'm down to get out of my own head and get into collaborative feedback.
Thanks for bringing it to the table, John.
And I was just going to say, if you want to share your screen, I've enabled share screening if you wanted to.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I could do that.
That would be great.
Right screen. Yeah, this is the right screen. So, as mentioned before, I do these restore-thons called hack. I have a Hack for Earth thing, which someone else stole the name a year later, a woman in, I think, Greta Thunberg's country. So I don't use that anymore as much. But ultimately, Hack the Bay and Delta is a bioregional restore-thon. Talk about bioregional awareness. We actually just take action. We joke that Hack for Earths are the anti-pioneers, because instead of sitting on stage and talking, we get out, get our hands dirty, and try to do shit. We fail a lot because we're hyper innovative, but through the failure comes opportunity for new steps. So I truly believe that the decentralized autonomous organization is going to be the mechanism with which Eleanor Ostrom's work of solving the tragedy of the commons comes to life. And as mentioned here at the first sentence, funding for DAOs is through the roof. There's 15.3 billion right now. And as crypto goes up in value, crypto folks want to invest in crypto chic opportunities and activities.
So John, who's the target for this again? The target audience?
Target audience for this, that's a good question. For this is going to be to start the Contra Costa Resource Conservation District, a government agency.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, their leadership.
Yeah, so this
sign off
first
to-
paragraph is going to lose them.
No, these people have already signed off on it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's both. So just hold on a second. I'm just trying to answer your question.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's both for the CCRCD team to sign off on, and then to go get funding from the blockchain crypto world.
Okay.
So this though I'm presenting it to the CCRCD organization, which I have a very close relationship. We've already have one successful event under our belt together a year and a half ago. This is meant for a crypto investment audience.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sense for the CCRCD leadership and board in particular.
That sounds challenging because it's like you have two different audiences, right?
Welcome to the club. Welcome to my world as a bridge.
Yeah, because the crypto part, like the people will get it, like DAOs, but somebody who's not familiar with a DAO is like this first sentence, they're lost. But the stuff you have below,
through decentralized coordination or funding for decentralized autonomous organizations is exploding.
the funding
That would make
for-
you lost.
Yeah, it was solving the tragedy of the commons through decentralized coordination. Sounds good. And then as soon as you go to DAOs, if the person's not familiar with the crypto, they're pretty lost with that. Versus like, what is it you're actually solving? Like when you say solving the tragedy of commons decentralized, cool. And then the things you have below with water quality and stuff seem like they appear up here because they would appeal to somebody who's coming, like the board of this organization. They care about water quality, probably. They probably don't care about DAOs, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, they implement the water quality, and if you just see
Okay.
these three links in here
Mhm,
are teams that we've already gone through this Hack for Earth process together with the CCRCD.
Oh,
So
perfect.
everyone
Yeah.
in the
So
CCRCD
yeah,
organization understands the water quality work we've done together, the mapping illegal dumping we've already done together, and the soil carbon testing work we've done together. This is taking it to the next step into
Yeah.
DAOs.
So that sounds good as a starting to start with stuff they've already done and just say in how whatever you have, like whenever they've already done it. And this is the success we've already made, because then it gets over that sort of status quo bias. Like now it's the status quo is we're already doing this. We're going to do more of this as opposed to this as a new weird thing. Because when you see DAOs and it just seems like a new weird thing versus what you're saying. Like what I'm hearing is that this is something that we've been doing, we're building on it, and now we're leveraging this new thing called DAOs or whatever. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but like the stuff you did before.
I think we're strategically in different places. I'm hyper accentuating the ecological DAO part because that's what this entire event's about. So I'm giving the context for why DAOs immediately. I appreciate your feedback, but I think that if they don't have the why DAOs hook at the beginning, then they won't. Then there's no reason there's talk.
Well, I guess their why is not DAOs though. Their why is like they're not an organization that promotes DAOs.
Yeah, John.
I guess that's where I'm coming from. Like, if I was on the board there and I saw this, I would be like, I don't think you guys know what you're talking about because I don't know what a DAO is. I'm not going to admit that I don't know what a DAO is. I'm gonna put it on you guys, right? That's the way investors are, man. They're like, I don't get it, right? And then they just throw their hands up because, like, I honestly would love to learn about that.
I totally see where you're trying to take this, John, and I agree with Alex on this in the sense that it could be about DAOs. You just gotta flip it in the way that, especially who you're talking to, right? And you can have two of these when you're talking to people in the blockchain, and then you have another person, and it might be like, who are you talking to? Like, and when you're talking to someone that, just flip it in the sense of like, here's what it's all about. And, there's this wonderful thing called a DAO, and I never heard of a DAO before. I heard of a DAO, and so here's what a DAO is, and help them, educate them, right? And so there's those pieces.
So I could expand on this first sentence now. I moved it up, make it a little bit less about DAOs immediately, like I have. Just talk about the ecological problems first, then move into the DAOs as a solution. Is that what I'm hearing?
What is this doc being used for? Like, are
This
you
talk is being used
actually,
as a primer. Every single Hack for Earth event,
Is it a
we start with a brief of the opportunity that we're trying to go in on. So it's like, what are we doing? What are we as an organization doing together? What is CCRCD and Blockchain for Ecology doing? And that's what this is meant to answer.
then do 2 briefs, John. Like, I think that would be, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but do a brief that's really directed for those blockchain dudes, right? And then do another brief that's really directed towards that investor type, right? Just a thought there. Like, if this is actual document, an actual working document, living document that you're sending out to people, I would try to get it as close as you can to that specific person that's going to receive it, right? And I agree with Alex that I shut off as soon as you start talking about DAOs, because I'm like, oh, that's the blockchain world that I have very little knowledge and understanding about.
Yeah,
right?
just to give a little context, this is an organization that's innovative enough to have already gone through one technology hackathon meets ecology. So I don't think that they're going to be completely turned off. The name of it is Ecological DAOs. You know what I mean? So I get where you're coming from with it, and I appreciate. I will definitely massage more ecological language, and I moved that sentence up, that 2-sentence paragraph up.
Sorry, just for my own understanding, I'm not suggesting you should chase this. Like, what would be an analogy from the ecological world of a DAO? Does such a concept exist, like in ecology?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. Maybe beehive.
Okay.
Maybe a beehive, but no, not really. I mean, beehive is a top-down centralized hierarchy with
Well, complex adaptive system, like an ant, like complexity
ant,
weekend, the guy
ant,
there,
yes,
like
an
Daniel
anthill.
Friedman, he's postdoc in entomology, so that's his example.
Ants
Yeah.
would
Okay.
be,
Okay.
This is a way to manage a human ant colony.
Okay. Oh, human.
And-
Yeah. Okay. Or Luke's mycelium network, right? Like, it's the same sort of thing.
Big time. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so
Cool.
mycelium,
Yeah.
instead of, just gives nutrients, this is a way of tracking votes automatically in a system that, self-corrects.
I hear the mycelium
Good,
network does
good.
that as well. It doesn't always do a fair trade, and sometimes it declines a trade as well with the more research that's happening. So I would have gone to a mycelium network as an example.
Yep.
But I agree with the consensus in the room. But I think what's really important is that you're going to an event that is titled Ecological DAOs. So you would think that the room was qualified, that people would know what that is if they're going to go to the event. It's like if you go to McDonald's, you know that you're going to get hamburgers there. So I see where there's already a qualified audience in that room. But sometimes it's also, I go to events to be the dumbest person in the room so I can learn something. So I might not know what a DAO is. So I think there is, here's what we're trying to solve, and how do we think that we're going to achieve that using a DAO. So I think that is not a bad framework of introducing the solution you're trying to achieve first, so people get emotionally attached and go, oh my God, I want to solve soil carbon testing and water quality, and, just shut up and take my money. Most people don't even care how you're going to solve it. So I understand where that argument is coming from as well, or that idea. But yeah, awesome. But nice stuff.
I'd like to say something when there's a moment too on this.
Please.
I see the recent entry of the mycelial analogy, so now my interest is definitely sparked, because I've been experiencing a lot of engagement with passion in these variety of opportunities to meet new people and networks lately, and so many of these topics are intertwined. So if we want to look at that, I would definitely be interested in looking at the DAOs model, I suppose, for lack of a better word. But let me just give you an example. When we're talking about the commons that was referenced earlier, one of the meetings in the open COP, which I mentioned, was about the commons and looking at beaches around the world as case studies of commons areas. And I introduced the idea that these environments, beaches just being an example, any region could be, one of these environments, but the blockchain comes in, and possibly even friendly AI to assist in mapping and tracking the choices made within that region. I'm going to use the example of the litter bug placing the litter and the person that picks up litter removing it. Two very different choices. When we have the awareness to see what roles and flows are happening in the environment and attaching blockchain with it, then we start to transcend to a new realm of value and exchanges potential. And introducing the decentralized aspect is really important, because if there's a big need for firewood in an area, you can sure as hell bet somebody's going to be going around picking up all the firewood, hoarding it. To be able to track these choices would be a major revolutionary step to tip the balance of power.
No question. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we started with 3 core competency areas we've already explored. The soil carbon problem, they already have a head of, not a soil scientist, but the RCDs invest in carbon farming plans for organizations in their jurisdiction. So by facilitating the soil carbon measurements in a DAO format, we just are going to expand on what they already do. We already explored what it would look like to have drones collect water samples. Now we want to write a white paper and get money to incentivize I think thousands of drone operators in the Bay Area to potentially make a little water token or a little frog token, for collecting water samples and giving us real snapshots of the data in our backyard.
So how are you
same with the mapping solution.
Yep.
How are you analyzing those water samples?
So at this moment, with Web3 technology, you typically incentivize a community to take action. So the way I propose it, and we're going to take 6 weeks to explore the problem, and at the end of the 6 weeks have a white paper with which we go and hunt investment. So we're not at this point, we're looking for sponsorship from protocols in blockchain who want an ecological win, that say, look, we're teaming up with a local government agency to do a cool thing, to do a cool think tank exploration. And then at the end of it, we're going to have much more understanding of the problem. But the way I'd see it is that we'd probably incentivize people to collect water samples and geotag them, and then mail those samples to a lab that we've teamed up with, rather than create the new laboratory.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Because you could do it on site. FredSense would be a good group to reach out to do water quality analysis on site, and not sending it to us. FredSense, yeah, it's they're out of Calgary, I believe. Yeah, I don't know anybody there, but we can find a contact there. They seem pretty incredible for doing, because if you want to do it decentralized, then instead of a central lab, this is a way to keep it out in the field.
No, I hear you. The thing about the decentralization, though you may have points of centralization in the system, is that we're just trying to a drone operator, we're not trying to turn every drone operator into a water quality expert. We're trying to turn a drone operator into here's a task you can do with just your drone. And then giving the laboratory the information, partly because I'll get some intel we got last time when we explored the problem. We were exploring Internet of Things sensors in the water. And when I found out that Internet of Things sensors, when you test through an automated system, I can't go to court with an IoT document, and it won't hold up in court saying Chevron's dumping these heavy metals in our backyard water. But I don't know whether an amateur person taking a water quality sample would hold up in court. But I know if I mail a water quality sample to a laboratory that's geotagged, that can hold up in the court of law against an institution that is environmentally polluting. So we did want to build into this. Yeah, I don't think it's a problem. Yeah, exactly. The chain of custody. I mean, ultimately, if you just seal it appropriately and mail it to the lab, it's good to go, and then it can hold up in court. So that's one of the pieces we're looking to build into this, is just the incentive mechanism to take amateur people, amateur boaters, turn them into water collectors, and still have the teeth of the ability to litigate, but we don't lead with that. You know what I mean? to make this data actionable.
Now that I get it, this sounds amazing.
Thanks.
Like I was a bit hung up with the DAO part because like I didn't quite get how that fit in. But now that you're describing in terms, yeah, water quality is huge. I'm doing UVC LED clean water projects in East Africa. So certainly that's a big fascination of mine, water quality. So I love it. I think this sounds like, because there's so many people with drones. They just fly them around and do stupid things with them. Do something useful with your drone.
Do something useful, earn a little frog token.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get a frog token, whether it has any value or not, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? We can raise millions of dollars for this. You know what I mean? Especially in the Bay Area backyard.
Yep. And then once
that's John's projects, man. Once you get it, you're like, yeah, this is freaking awesome.
Thanks, man. It's hard for me to convey what the hell I'm talking about because it's two worlds that no one else understands. Sorry, Ray, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I think there was just a huge delay. That's all. Yeah, I think once you got the DAO operational, there's other things that you can layer onto these. You know what I mean? You're doing water test qualities for X, but maybe there's wildlife counts and other tools there. There's people who sit in their backyard with an app and count how many different bird species they find, and then that sits into a centralized server and analyze the data. Again, that's something that could get pushed into decentralized, and now you can overlay the data and go, well, we found this chemical in this water, and all of a sudden there's less count of this species, but it's higher over here where it's closer to something else. So big data and joining dots with this kind of layering, I think, is super exciting. And this is what gets me excited about DAOs and decentralized and blockchain, is that, yeah, we can merge all this data together and it's owned by the collective communities, and the drone operators can get rewarded in a token that goes up later on. And, they got another revenue stream for work that they did 6 years ago. It's really awesome.
Well said. And so there's the piece that not everybody understands about DAOs is communities can vote. So you're going to have a community that's collecting data, that's getting ecological competence from collecting data and looking at the data on whatever map we decide to visualize it on. What Ray's talking about is taking an added layer of step, which is like phase 12, but it's really on point. If we start to get this bioregional awareness of our data and how, wait, we're finding this weird toxin in this particular area, and the bird count is less in this particular area, we could tie different data together. And it would be not because me and the CCRCD said so, it would be because the educated network, someone came up with a proposal and made a good argument that we all voted on. And if the proposal passed, we're going to decide to keep extra attention on these particular species around this particular toxic dump flow. So that's where it becomes revolutionary. You know what I mean? Because instead of going to the EPA and asking them to do something about it, we become the actionable body that votes, takes action, allocates resources towards ecological problems in our backyard.
Love it. Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to steer? Otherwise, I also want to note that we've had a few extra people join the room. I think Daniel and Matthew. So if you wanted to say hello and introduce yourself, we're just at the point in our discussion where we're talking about different ideas and problems and collectively coming up with solutions. But we might let Daniel and Matt, we'll start off with Daniel and then we'll go to Matt.
Pablo as well.
Oh, and Pablo, sorry.
Hi, Dan Halsey here. I'm actually in Minnesota in my RV. I'm with United Designers. I'm an ecological designer, work on the US and internationally. At least when I can travel again, I'll be doing that. Haven't been traveling internationally since COVID started, but ecological designers with Southwoods Ecosystems, ecological restoration. We design homesteads, assess ecological systems, and we have 17 designers across large parts of the globe and mostly Western Asia and the US and the West. But yeah, I'm just here just to listen to what this was about, learning the vocabulary and the vernacular, because all these things are changing and words are being mixed together a lot, and the English language is chaotic enough with having new things come in, and I'm always trying to figure out what they mean. So appreciate being here and listening to the conversation.
Welcome, thank you. So it's Regenpreneur. So it's a mix of the regen space and the business entrepreneurship colliding together. So awesome. Matt, over to you. I see you're unmuted.
Hi guys, nice to meet you and thanks for having me. I'm here in Bali, Indonesia. I'm actually friends and partners with Pablo on some projects that we're working on. And I have a business here with my partners. We're a rainwater beverage producer. So we manufacture health drinks from rainwater. So we filter our rainwater and we basically use, regenerative practices in our business model. And I'm a permaculturist here in Bali. And so we've been operating for about 4 years here, and we've just founded a new foundation that will be we're just kind of forming right now as far as the model that we're going to be using to kind of combat different issues within Bali and bring together the various organizations that are focusing on different sustainable and social impact projects. So we're just trying to do as much network as we can to, grow our reach. And Pablo, he's here in Bali, and we're just starting to figure out how we're gonna roll this out. So it's great to hear new ideas and how we can connect on a global basis. There's talks about creating some sort of app that might be able to link things together, but still early stage. We're taking it very slowly right now. We have a couple tangible projects that we're just about to embark on here and try and tackle before the end of the year. One is a rainwater harvesting system for an orphanage here in one of the drier areas of Bali. So they'll be able to, have access to clean drinking water on a year-round basis with filtration systems. And then once we do that, we'll start to look at some of the more remote areas up in the mountains where there's no running water or access to water anywhere nearby. So projects like that, and also Pablo will tell you he's been very involved with the plastic exchange here in Bali, and so we're just trying to connect a lot of dots. There's a lot of people doing things here in Bali, and it's great to see. However, there's definitely a lack of a network that can connect everything and make it as effective as possible to have a larger impact. So appreciate your time, and thanks a lot.
It's coming, buddy. It's coming. We are it.
Pablo, did you want to say hello as well?
Join us.
And just so you both know, Natalie is also in Bali. She introduced herself as being in Bali as well.
Yeah, I just invited Pablo before. I'm like, hey, Pablo, do you know this is going on? So, hey, Pablo.
The sound's not coming in very good, Natalie,
Hello.
but it's
Oh, sorry.
so great to be with you today.
Plug
Glad
in.
you're here. Oh, that's better.
Yeah. No, I was just saying I met Pablo recently at the NGO and Associates a meeting, which is meant to be bringing. I don't know if is that the one you're from, Matthew, as well, the Bali NGO and Associates, or is that another
No.
foundation that's forming?
No, we've just
That's a
founded
different
a new foundation. We're still coming up with the name. We're building the team, and we just know that the foundation is developed. It's founded. Bank accounts are getting opened, and we have a couple projects that we're about to start tackling. But right now, it's in the infancy stage, and it's quite exciting because it's it's a blank canvas, really. And so,
Very nice.
yeah.
Sounds very similar to what Bali NGO and Associates have already started, but anyway,
Great.
we can chat about it later. Hey, Pablo.
Hello. Hey, everyone. So yeah, thank you, Natalie, for inviting me. It was kind of just last minute. Yeah, glad to be here and see that there's too many different people working so many different solutions. Yeah, I've been partnered up with Matt into creating this new NGO. And pretty much the thing that moved me and what inspires me to do this is try to find circularity in every single thing that we do. So yeah, the whole purpose of this new NGO, new project, the way that I would like to approach things, and also Matt, it's not through a conventional NGO scheme where it's always required to give donations, and just conditioning parties, one party to always give and the other party to just always receive. But in a way that it incentivizes an actual positive economic movement that makes it easy to grow sustainable and organically, and can involve many different initiatives and NGOs around it. So yeah, right now it sounds very, very general, but we already have a couple specific projects that we'll be working into, and all our efforts within this project is also to empower people and aim towards circularity. Yeah, I think that would be pretty much all I have to share for now. And yeah, I would love to hear much more about all of you guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Wasn't sure if Josh has left and come back, but awesome. Good. So yeah, so the rest of us have already done introductions. We will send the replay out of this, but you're more than welcome to join every week. This is a space where we, join every week at the same time, and we talk about the wins and things that we're all excited about. At the moment, we are chatting about any solutions or problems that you may have. So it's a way of workshopping and kind of bouncing ideas off together, and collectively coming up with solutions. So we've been talking about blockchain technology, and John, who's now going to have to leave soon, he was talking about building a DAO and using blockchain about that. Hello, Claire. Haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you. I miss your music. Excellent. So yeah, just if anyone has any challenges that they're working through at the moment that we would like to resolve, we sometimes talk about business, marketing, sales letters, pitches, investing, things like that. So now's the time to bring it up. I see Josh's lips moving, but I'm not sure if he's talking to us or someone else.
My internet is just glitching, so I click something and it doesn't actually do it, or it does it later. Yeah, I just was saying we can also be more practical. So sometimes it's more the personal the plight of the entrepreneur as well. So if there's something that you're struggling with personally, that gets brought up here as well. So we talk about everything that a Regenpreneur is going through, not just investment, marketing, all of those things that Ray mentioned as well.
We do get very deep and meaningful sometimes.
when we share, right? So feel free to unmic and share. We got time for a good challenge to bring up.
Here's one. This could constitute as a wicked problem. So the task, the ultimate task, as I'm seeing it now, is to shift the balance of power like that somehow, and it all seems to revolve around this notion of identity. Linking networks together very quickly would be convenient if we could all just recognize that it's the culture and the values that bind us, not necessarily who we are a member of, but we're all really part of the same thing in essence, if we share the values and the culture and the goals that we're heading to revitalize, regenerate, and such. So that seems like a really difficult situation for me going forward with the smoker, because I want the GRC to be able to accommodate this global effort, but then again, it's still just another name. And how can we put into the proposal, for lack of a better word, that we will also recognize other networks as part of the same thing, recognizing that we're all kin, but some people just won't be able to agree with that, I think. And there's going to be some complications, but I think that's what's really important, is to shift the balance of power by linking together and increasing our ability to support each other by region and promote this way of life, so that it's not like Nabisco, General Mills, all of that is where the power is, and we're just kind of scraping by or whatever. It's the opposite. We might stand a chance in that case.
Daniel, I saw your hand up. You had some
Yeah, I
comments?
had a question. Can we compare and contrast Hive technology with blockchain? How do those two things differ? Because I think in our organization, we're actually doing that. There's not a lot of technology involved because of ecological design. I have in the past have been contacted by a number of organizations, one of which was Microsoft, that was trying to build algorithms. And I just kind of had to chuckle. I said, you're talking about a biological system. It doesn't, if it can't figure out what the questions are, it won't be able to give you answers. But those two things that we're doing as our community and as our group, totally open book, totally transparent. All of our projects are on Dropbox. We share all the information, budgets, you name it. There's no document in our group that isn't open to everybody. And with that, we all learn to move forward, and we're constantly working with each other on maybe a dozen different projects at a time. And it seems like that's kind of the Hive way of working. But if we had more people doing that, it just sounds a lot to me like the blockchain model, and I think it's more like a Hive, but is there a difference?
Alex, did you want to elaborate? Or, oh, sorry, I mean Luke.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah, how do we design this model so that it has this necessary open source aspect, and it can not go viral, but go mycelial, while also preserving the need for quality assurance so that things don't unravel like Occupy did, you know? That's what we're looking at.
One of our biggest problems is the quality of the information. And that's where in our group, you know, citations, it has to be good information, and we test each other constantly. It's not pretty sometimes on things, and I abhor anything that's crowdsourced, which I think is not the same, where there's no accountability for that information. Yeah, that is right. How do you do that and then ensure the data? Yeah, how do you know that the data is true? It's like with the water testing, you know, and it was on my screen now, sorry. But we're doing that with the drone, right? Yeah, we use drones, we're doing all those things, and measurable outcomes is huge with us. You got to be able to measure it. If you can't measure it, what's the point? You don't know where you're going, have all the strategies in the world, but if you didn't measure at the start, get your baseline, how do you know where you're going, and how do you know when you get there? And mostly it's about changing our trajectories. We never actually get anywhere. That's what I'm finding. We just change our path to the constantly changing models we have. But even with this, to make sure that the measurements are true and standardized, so everybody's talking about the same thing, it gets very time consuming. But even with the drones and testing the water, I've done that. You don't just throw a vial of water in the mail, mail it to Ottawa or Vancouver. It doesn't work that way. You have so many hours at certain temperature that all those things have to be done at the same time to have an accurate comparison with that too. So, although I do like the idea of using the drone to do that, but there's also a big stick and a string that works really well too. But still, the Hive, the blockchain, and how is there a difference to that? That's what kind of, or is there another way to look at it when people are involved and it's not so much networking computers?
My distinction between the blockchain and what you've explained with the Hive is you use tools like Dropbox and Google and cloud storage. Individual companies own that. The difference to blockchain is that it is owned by the network, and as long as there are enough people keeping that network online, it is always accessible, with the condition that you have access to an internet service or a very large node set up with the backlog of all the confirmed data. So it's basically a people-owned or a network owned database storing of information. So at the moment, if Dropbox decides to close their business down and gives everyone 3 minutes notice, you lose everything that you've created. And it would be in their terms and conditions that you using it on the basis that that is a risk that you put in your business. Blockchain looks to take that away, where there is file services that have been solved on blockchain, and will grab a file and slice it up and shred it and store it on different nodes and then make replicas of it. So there's multiple copies of that slice owned on multiple nodes. So no one can ever take it down. Even if one country went offline, which could happen in the next couple of years, it could still function. And then when those countries come back online, it would synchronize all the changes until it got back to its current block. And it's a whole lot of, that's where blockchain comes from. It's a chain of blocks that are storing all the information like a ledger. And that's what was used in finance initially, is to storage of value as a general ledger, open sourced. All the code is viewable by everyone. And there are companies who have put themselves together that verify this code and make sure that there aren't any backdoors or malicious code in these what they call smart contracts. And once a smart contract is executed, it can't be changed. That is the what they call governance.
Yeah, the incentives there in doing that, because Ethereum, its origin story is fantastic, in that they had to actually fork all of Ethereum because there was a flaw. And so if you screw up in cryptocurrency, you screw up in millions of dollars. So there's a lot of incentive to get it right. So to your point about like crowdsource versus like incentives to do good things, like there's a lot there that's aligning it. The way you're talking though is like, I hear in effective altruism, randomized controlled trials a lot. And I find that just such a high level, such a high bar that such little gets done. There's like $40 billion sitting in like open fill or some part of effective altruism, just sitting on the sidelines. And it would be nice if that got deployed in some way. So I do think there's a potential here with blockchain to make some of this happen in a really robust way. But it's just so hard to for most of us to wrap our heads around and find.
So, Luke, I wanted to kind of go back to, because I feel like I understand your challenge because I've been a part of the GRC for some time. Raise your hand if you're part of the GRC. I just wanted to.
Silently, because it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it is a little overwhelming.
I see
John
Connors.
Same way, but
John Connors is in the GRC too, who is with this.
Russell, I believe, is too. But I've been, I've actually tested some things, and I think it's a wonderful commons for the regenerative community, and that's kind of what the Daves have kind of developed there. But I see your problem that you presented earlier about the GRC and like trying to be able to welcome as many people in there. And with some of the things that Daniel was kind of presenting and talking about, organizing, I think the GRC has a huge challenge organizing what they've created as a commons for the regenerative movement. Like how to, and that's what Ray is kind of signifying as well. It's like, there's just so much going on. I don't know really how to involve myself in it, right? Unless you're attending the GRC, many things on the GRC calendar, which can be overwhelming in itself. There's not a real place to like bring us all together. And so there's, we've been talking about regeneration pollination being a place where that can help, and there's all these other things, but I get what you're saying. I just want to mention that, Luke, that I've felt that way too. And I think the main problem that I'm seeing in that is we can't bring a lot of people together to show and work together because it's just so convoluted. It's like, how do we organize this? How do we understand? It's not organizing, it's understand the commons that GRC has created, right? Because it is a commons. How do we?
I think that's, and I think that's one of the challenges, is it breaks the mold of how we've all been raised. We come from a parent-daughter or parent-child relationship. There's always a superior. You go into a workplace and there's a manager and a boss and an owner and this hierarchy. And then you bring out something on the blockchain and it's like owned by the users or owned by the token holders. And it breaks people's minds and pathways of how it all kind of works. And the fact, one of the things that I keep getting blown away with. And this, Natalie's asked a question about, can we speak a little bit more about the Web3 stuff? And I'm happy to touch on it briefly, but the ability that we have virtual, like Meta, Facebook has just announced the change of Meta. They're looking to go down the metaverse. This breaks a lot of the values in decentralized because no one wants a metaverse owned by Facebook. I see this as the start of the end of Facebook. As much as they're going to bring a lot of light to the movement, the people in the decentralized land do not and will not support this. So there are other, call them towns or virtual spaces, that are running with so much more governance than our councils, our districts outside in our own backyard. You know, the users are voting where they want to put a school or a church, or how much money should go back to a charity that's being run in these virtual lands. And so when we start seeing economies run so much more smoother in these virtual spaces, we can take that and say, maybe we can tokenize. And I think there is Miami who's created the Miami coin, and they are raising more money through their coin, the Miami coin, than they are through their rates. And so when you live in a county, you might own tokens that give you the right to live there, and they're your voting power. And all of a sudden, by a push notification, they might say, do you want bin collections on a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday? And everyone votes. Everyone can see it live. And then by that afternoon, the majority, 51%, voted for Tuesday. Decision made. No board meetings, no town planning stuff, no 300 people getting overpaid to make a simple decision that the community can kind of get to a fast tracking. So that's kind of stuff that can come into the real world based on what's kind of happening in these virtual worlds. And so Web3 basically means this new layer of decentralized ownership. So at the moment, when you buy something from Amazon, it's hosted on an Amazon server. Amazon owns that server. It comes from an Amazon warehouse, and they decide which courier company you're going to go with and things like that. With Web 3.0, it's all owned by the decentralized platforms. And so the people own it. You know, if there is an autonomous company, which is what a DAO stands for, everyone in that, like, it's kind of like being a shareholder. You can vote and say, no, we want to use DHL this week, or no, we want to use this one next week because their prices are more competitive. And I don't even think the future economies will come to price. You know, there's other things that people will value, like time and efficiencies and impact to the environment, you know. And so you can make decisions like that. An example of a Web3 app at the moment is a one called Opulus that I'm aware of, where it's basically taking the record label industry and saying, you as an individual listener, you might love a particular style of music, you can give money to help an artist create their record. So instead of the record label owning that artist and what they can say and can't say, it's like crowdsourcing the record label being able to create. And because you sponsored or gave money to make a record happen, whenever that gets streamed on a streaming service, you'll get a royalty paid back to your wallet. So instead of the company or the record label becoming really rich and deciding what to do with that money, and there's lots of examples where record artists can't do what they say or can't sing a song they want to because the record label says, no, this goes against our policy, Web 3.0 removes that. And so you as the person, sponsor will give money and you get the reward as well. So everything's owned on the blockchain, and the music is distributed as an NFT or a non-fungible token via the blockchain as well. So a true Web 3.0 model, everything lives on blockchain. We're in that transition where we're going 2.0 to 3.0. So there's a lot of hybrid models where you're still dealing with websites that are 2.0, but maybe their token is 3.0. So we're at that bridging point of our time. So it's a bit confusing of what 3.0 actually looks like. Most web browsers can't handle 3.0 protocols, but they will eventually, you know. So I don't know if that clears it up, Natalie, but it is a very big beast, and there's lots of videos on YouTube where if you search, you know, there's a lot of people who do those like whiteboard animations, and I find them really easy to understand, like what a DAO is, and you know, you got to start at what blockchain is and understand that before you can get to the end part. But it's about everything being owned by the people, not corporations.
I watched, some of the blockchain stuff a while back, and then there was Hashgraph, and that seemed like a big progression and like a lot less energy intensive. Like Bitcoin was using so much electricity and everything, and then it kind of dropped off. But yeah, I just wondered, I was curious like how it can come into like, you know, people being able to fund regenerative projects through this kind of technology, because like I've been living in developing countries for the last 5 years, and in like places like Uganda, you know, they might be able to produce something, and same in Philippines and in Bali, but you know, the freight prices are ridiculous. And so I'm looking at like what other things we can do, like say through experiences, like people can, you know, be involved and get hands-on learning and experience, but somehow pre-fund it, like that kind of we were saying about the music thing, you know, crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, like these kind of projects that then people can come and learn at and get hands-on thing with. I mean, yeah, it's one thing to kind of be a resident of a developed nation and be able to like, you know, do blockchain and sit behind a computer and all that, but to actually grow food, like, you know, permaculture isn't going to cut it. Like it's still these people in these countries where they can do this kind of work. Like I just believe like they're the ones, like, you know, I'm happy to help, but I'm just a freaking Westerner that can't do shit really. Like I try to build with bamboo, but you know, these people still have all the skills and everything and to be able to farm, but it's just shifting it towards that more ecological and like, whether you call it organic, I don't even like the word organic, but yeah, it's just sometimes just that initial $5,000 to get the equipment and the things, like, you know, for someone in a Western country, it's, you know, it's nothing, but just to try and get that kind of money in these kind of countries is freaking nearly impossible. I'm not really a cashed up myself, but yeah. So I just, wondering like how that, because I'm looking at building this sort of like crowdfunding model, but yeah, if it can be also incorporated with crypto and like, yeah, just for these things, it's more like infrastructure loans or infrastructure grants to get stuff happening. Like that's the hardest thing, just getting a freaking solar pump to pump the water from the well to the, you know, most of these people have got land, you know, they've got people that got land, but they've got no money to buy just the basic things that can start things. And I've seen, you know, some amazing things going on here in Bali, and just with $5,000, like what people can just convert a whole farm, and, you know, it's just phenomenal. So, looking at every
and I think the connectivity to the land is much greater in some places like that as well, where it's you know, I see that a lot as well in regards to the so this is where the NFT space, which is the non-fungible token, has become very popular of late, because it's like it's kind of like Kickstarter, where people are giving money for a graphical representation, and it's raising capital for the development team to then go and build the tools and solutions that they are putting on their roadmap. Now, there's a lot of scams out there, and there's a lot of people making money and then just taking it and doing other bad things. But there are a lot of great projects out there where they will use an NFT to raise money, just like Kickstarter. And then that's your proof of ownership, and your token will give you different usages into their DAO or whatever they're trying to build. So there are a lot of models in this space as well. So think of it as Kickstarter, but how you can use blockchain to raise that money as well. So anything that you've seen on Kickstarter could potentially, you know, be bought into that blockchain side of things as well. I'm mindful of time, and we'd like to go around the room and just get key takeaways. You also mentioned about the energy usage, and I think that is a big kind of thing that sits in this space, especially in the regen space, where everyone's really conscious about that. There's been a lot of articles written out to kind of bust the myth of the energy consumption. A lot of miners, they're incentivized to be sustainably harvesting their energy, because that's how they make most profit, which most banks or other financial institutions have no reward or benefit from doing something like that. And there's also an article that I read really recently that did a really good job of saying, if we actually added up the amount of servers and buildings that banks and financial institutions have operating every single day. People drive into these banks to operate a banking service desk that maybe gets used at 30% of the time. That far outweighs how much usage is happening on blockchain. The difference is that we can actually see it on blockchain with live data, how much energy is being used. We don't have open source books to see how the banking and the financial institutions are running their businesses to see how much they're actually having as a footprint. So I think we just need to be mindful of a bit of myths that go on. It's like, in my world, I think, well, finally, we can actually see how much energy blockchain is using and we can correct it. In the past, we've never been able to do that. So yeah, it might be using a lot of energy, but there's solutions we can put to reduce that, and we can monitor it a lot better than what we can in the other world of centralized banking. That's my view anyway. So do your own research, as always they say in the blockchain world. Yeah, so excellent. Well, let's do a popcorn around the room. Let's start off with Alex this time. Alex, if you want to start off a key takeaway, something that you got out of today's session, and then popcorn to someone else.
Yeah, no, the big challenge, and it's usually this with any sort of entrepreneur thing, is where do you get started, right? It's like, because there's all the stuff we want to do and we're trying to change the world, but you got to just pick that one person and find something you can solve for them. And I really like Daniel talking about getting the water samples and stuff like that. Because who is it? John, who is here? It sort of seemed like he's doing some massive thing, which was cool, but it's kind of hard to like wrap your head around something so big. And so starting with something, get some traction and then sort of build from there. So yeah, so Natalie, that like if there is somebody with a farm and it's $5,000 to do something, that sounds like a good way to figure out how to make it $4,000 or $3,000 or $1,000 eventually, right? Like if you can do it right, you can drive down the cost of these things. It's just a matter of getting all the kind of pieces to come together. But yeah, no, it's great. It's a really interesting group, like really, really cool stuff. Did not expect to hear you guys talking about DAOs and Web 3.0, I have to say. It's it was surprising. There's other communities like Radical Exchange and Complexity Weekend that talk about that stuff a lot. So I'm impressed. I think it's really, really cool. So I will pick Natalie.
What are we doing? Sorry, I'm on another tangent.
That's okay. Key takeaways from today's session, something that kind of like was a penny drop moment. Key takeaway.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess just to remind myself to come back to these groups to just get reconnected with that sort of bigger picture level, and just I just got really about that sort of thing, that there is things out there, there's funding sources. Like sometimes I just get so stuck in the back end of my website and all that stuff, and kind of my day-to-day activities, that I just got to remind myself to come back to that bigger picture, and how's it going to actually move forward, how's it all connected on the bigger level, and that sort of thing. And it just feels good to connect with other people, because I tend to live in my own world a little bit here. Great to meet you all. That's about it.
Do you want to pick someone else? Just popcorn it to someone else?
Russell Manning. I think you just added me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I've been adding everyone in LinkedIn. Good to network, right? So I think the big takeaways this week was just kind of, I think we've heard a lot about Web3 and blockchain and crypto, and sometimes it can all seem like it's the same thing. And so it was good to really have some, Raid, I think, did a very fantastic job of making it crystal clear what those things are. Even that new word DAO, whatever it was, that I think that's even clearer in my head now. It was kind of fun that everybody was sort of, what's that? And there was a little bit of tension about it, and then it kind of we kind of worked out that we've all got different things going on in our lives, and like you said, like the GRC, maybe there's so many different things, and how do you get that kind of hive mentality of being connected,
not being overwhelmed. And this is perhaps the question that we've been struggling with a little bit, in these sessions. So yeah, it's nice to sort of see how technology, I think one of the really important things of technology and regeneration is communication, right? I personally don't think technology is going to suck out all the carbon from the air anytime soon. I would much focus on building good soil for that. What I do see technology for is communicating and spreading good ideas rapidly. So again, just reinforcing that with this web, was it 0.3 or 3.0, whatever you call it. So yeah, nice to get some clarity there, and nice to see people from different parts of the world. Maybe it's the change of time in the States, but some we've got Bali, and we've got me in Colombia, and obviously you guys in Australia as well. So it's nice to be connected. I'll pass it over to Daniel.
Thanks. Yeah, this has been really great. I got in late, about 30 minutes, had some other things going on, but the DAO terminology in this is really interesting to me. I've dealt with sociocracy and consensus building, and I still like parliamentary procedure, I'm sorry. Because just the way to organize information, and some of the biggest issues we had with that was accountability and efficacy, and basically, the integrity of information. So sometimes I always have to go through these things, learn them to decide whether or not I want to change to something else. It's very time consuming to get all these new things, when really we had something that worked. It wasn't great, but wow, it takes a lot of energy. It's like going to Haiti and asking the farmers, oh yeah, we know we don't have enough calories to even get through the day, but now we want you to change how you farm and redo your fields. It's change takes a lot of energy out of people. The NFTs, I'm really interested in learning more about that, and the blockchain, because I think what we're doing with our design assets, our design process, how we're doing that. One of the issues we have right now is exchange rates and moving money across the world. They just kill us. The banks, these transfer companies, is just insane. And for a lot of our projects, the budgets aren't big. It's this little farmer, and it's Pakistan. We're trying to help them out, and we can't even afford the fees, let alone trying to pay somebody there to work with us. So, but the data assets that we have, the graphical assets that we have, and the way that our design system, I'm really intrigued and wondering if there are NFT possibilities for that, because that might help accelerate the distribution of the information and bringing more people to take advantage of. Because that's how our hive, for lack of a better word, is working right now. We're building the assets and sharing them. And just one, I mentioned about, like when I mentioned about Dropbox, which is kind of like PayPal and everybody else. Eventually, everybody hates everybody, all these services. But what I like about that is we are backed up. Everything on my computer is backed up on 17 other computers. So we use Dropbox, and then it's always online through them. And then if we need to go back and get a different version or something got changed, we can always do that. So there's kind of I can see how that would work too on a better server, maybe, that we would share ourselves rather than using that service. Obviously, it's not magic anymore. You just need a server somewhere to take care of it. So this has been really good. Web 3.0, all of it just gets my brain going again and thinking, how can we move forward with our work and get it to more people, but also use the technology better. And thank you, everybody.
Lovely. Might just pop over to Josh. I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, for your comments and everybody's comments today. My takeaway today is similar to Russell's. These conversations, they can go so many different directions, and I really enjoy the directions they do go, and they can be hard to decipher of like what it really means for you or for the grand scheme of things, right? My kind of thing is like I'm coming up with so many new ideas in my own business just from listening to you guys, right? And they interconnect and interrelate, and I'm connecting with wonderful people here, that are doing very similar work or want to see a world in a similar way, right? And so that's what I'm taking away from this day, is just being able to have the coffee house effect today and get the ideas from others and see how they all come together, right? And that's what I'm witnessing today. That's my takeaway. I'm just going to popcorn it over to Pablo.
So yeah, same as the other, this whole process that I've been going through, supporting and pushing initiatives towards sustainable ways, and trying to run everything more as a machine that runs by itself. That conversation and those points, as soon as you speak about empowerment, a lot of the conversations that I have just jump straight into crypto and blockchain. And yeah, I can see it's the same thing happening right here. I believe that it's kind of a good thing, because it kind of just drives the collective consciousness towards something that could be the beginning of a real, tangible, true democracy. Something that's not led by institutions that are vested the power of the people and end up serving their own personal purposes, or whatever purposes are beneficial for the institution itself, but not for the individuals that vested that trust into those individuals. So yeah, throughout this whole process, I've realized that most of the people that I approach and I talk to, they all want to see this change. They are not, they're stop driving all of their decisions by own personal gain, but it's something that it just resonates a lot. People looking for the best of their families and their friends and the communities and in general from this world. So yeah, good stuff. And I'm happy to be here and just keep learning with you guys, and just see how this develops over the next few months, few years, how this whole blockchain thing just keeps rolling out. Cool.
Absolutely. It's been going since 2013 and it ain't stopping. Luke, I think your last one, if you wanted to share.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Big takeaway from today was seeing that the drones can be utilized to, they're neither good nor bad, but they could be really helpful. And with the AI component, could really speed things up. Yeah, that's great. And all of the conversations from folks that showed up today were very inspiring, helping to make this happen. Oh, Luke, can I get your contact? Seed, yay.
Awesome.
Yeah, the seeds network, and utilizing blockchain and cryptocurrencies to fund regenerative projects is very, very huge. Thank you very much, Josh, for recognizing the difficulty with involving GRC and the herding cats activities. It's formidable. Thanks.
I feel it for sure.
I'll just finish up with my key takeaway. It'll be quick. I know we're a little bit over, but my big takeaway is the openness to DAOs and blockchain. Sometimes I live in this world and I think it's such a minority, and it seems like we're definitely getting past that tipping point, and everyone really wants to understand it. To Daniel's point about keeping things in the government kind of domain, I think the younger generation has definitely lost faith in any of that. The amount of corruption, the amount of paying off, the amount of deals underneath the table, the amount of court orders that there are just here in Australia at the moment about just COVID and things that have happened and over the last 6 months is just astronomical. And people are starting to really question, if this is what you're hiding now, what have you been hiding for the last 20, 30, 40, 100 years? And so I understand what you're saying is that you have much more comfort in that system, but I can assure you that everyone that I am meeting now cannot wait for the collapse and the rebuild to happen. As bad as that may be, it's definitely a feeling that I'm meeting more and more people who are actually wanting to see the banks collapse, who are wanting to see the governments collapse, because it's their only light at the end of the tunnel. So awesome. All right. We do mochas every week if people are wanting to. So please do check that out. A mocha is basically where you get to hold the floor and workshop your business and your proposal. There is a template that Josh can send in the emails that we send out each week as well. There is a breakdown about that. So have a chat to Josh. He's very active on LinkedIn. And it is really good when we can actually hear one person's story and their pitch and all work together on that. When we don't have a mocha, which has been regularly lately, we have these think tank sessions, which we get to talk together about it. So Josh, any final words before we part way?
Yeah, just want to thank you guys all again for the wonderful projects you're working on. Please show up weekly with us here and fill out a mocha. Let's really dive into your project and what you're going to be doing for the next 3 months so you can keep a focus on it and we can work on that together. And then when you come to these meetings, that's the stuff you bring up in our conversation. What challenges are you having in the immediate changes? Because we can get really heady in some of these conversations, but when we get focused in on what our specific goals are for the next 3 months, it really helps our regenerative work move forward. So I just wanted to plug that. And have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And let's see you next week and hear what the progress you're making. So bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.